Welcome to Stellar Cycles, a podcast dedicated to showing each woman her intrinsic power to guide her life, her cycle, her relationships, and her dreams. I cover feminine energy, reproductive health, and all things related to being a potent and magical being that is woman. I'm your host, Alina, and today our topic is the Fascinating Womanhood series. Finally, part 3, our third and final part to the series is here. So this series, we've been learning how to utilize our feminine superpower to inspire men to be better and to have wholesome relationships, marriages, and families. So over the past 2 episodes, we've covered the art of femininity itself and our value in this world as women, the importance of charm, how men are different from us, and what they need in order to feel secure in a romantic relationship with us. So what we're going to do is finish off this series by bringing those 2 components together and looking at it as a family unit. We're going to be discussing the importance of roles, character, consistency, among others. So just as a reminder, you don't have to be married to reap huge rewards from learning about and also utilizing these principles. This week, I will not be doing those regular weekly personal updates because Merry Christmas. So today is Christmas. Merry Christmas to those who celebrate. And honestly, how timely, because the ultimate purpose of a romantic love is to expand and create family and to create a better society and a better world. And Christmas is all about family, right? It can be good, it can be bad, it can be pleasant, it can be unpleasant, but ultimately it just reminds us that we all return back to the home base point, and that's where everything begins and ends is in the home. So just a really good reminder, and I hope that everyone is having the loveliest Christmas vibe, even though we're all at a point now in our lives that we can all just buy ourselves whatever we want, whenever, year-round. But if you're listening to this today, on a holiday, I consider that your present to me, and your support means the world. I hope you're having the best time and making all the memories with your family, with your friends. And this is the final episode of 2023. That's honestly kind of makes me emotional. Like, wow, in 2023, we started this journey, and I'm really hoping to magnetize some huge opportunities in 2024 and be able to be here a year from now at the end of 2024 and say, wow, so many amazing things have happened for us this year that we would have never imagined, but God provided us with these opportunities. I just can't wait. I love those types of moments where you can just look back in retrospect and like see in hindsight everything that you had to go through to be where you're at now. So what you can expect after this episode. So this episode is going to tie up our series. It's going to tie up 2023. So coming back Monday, January 1st of 2024, we'll be back with a winter glow up episode, giving you guys some ideas on how to keep the hot girl vibe going through the winter and keep things cute and interesting after the adrenaline of the holidays is past us and we're just, having to get through winter. So that's it. Again, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everyone. Let's get into our part 3 of the Fascinating Womanhood series. So we have made it to the third and final part of our Fascinating Womanhood series. So this final episode will be going over the tips and tricks that you can utilize. Not even tricks, I don't like using that word, but just little insights and tips on how to make a relationship work long term. Building a lasting love involves work. It really does, because we marry ideas, whether it's a man marrying a woman or a woman marrying a man, or whichever way it works, we marry the idea and potential of the person. And that's the most exciting part too, right? Because you don't really know that much about him. And it's exciting to be around something that you're not familiar with. But then over time, we lose that romance when we become familiar and complacent. But at the end of the day, we all crave a timeless love that stands through anything. Deep love and relationship, they're not found by luck, you guys, but they're built daily with perseverance, with intention. To start off this final section, let's talk about the 4 levels of intimacy. intellectual, emotional, spiritual, and physical. These 4 levels of intimacy are necessary to create a foundation for a long-lasting relationship. And if not followed in order, they can result in catastrophe. So the intellectual and first and foremost level that you want to build with a partner is having conversations with each other. In a long-term relationship, it's very important that you never stop talking. Don't stop conversating or running things by each other. Intellectual intimacy is kept up high when you consult each other and negotiate when working through things. And I think when it comes to feeling prioritized as a partner, it really, really helps you feel prioritized when you and your partner talk about things and they discuss important and little things with you. The next level of intimacy that comes after intellectual level has been solidified is the emotional level. On the emotional level of intimacy, at this point, we're not just expressing thoughts, but we're expressing feelings. And that's a risk, right? Because expressing feelings puts you in a vulnerable position. But your confidence in your relationship grows when you receive validation in return for that risk of vulnerability. So the core of emotional intimacy is being accepted as your real self. Of course, women have a higher aptitude for emotional intimacy, so it's really important that we really consider and are mindful of creating a safe and secure emotional atmosphere where the man that we're with can process and express his feelings to us. The third level of intimacy that comes after the first intellectual level and emotional level have been solidified would be the spiritual level of intimacy. And a lot of couples, unfortunately, don't even think about this level, but I think it's a really important level because it's your overall sense of purpose and how you fit into the grand picture of life. And it's something that's very necessary in order to hold a couple together after that initial attraction wears off. A pair needs a common purpose, something that they're working towards together. Coming together over a higher power is something that really, really ramps up intimacy. It can take the other levels, like the intellectual intimacy and emotional intimacy, up exponentially. If you are so lucky to find a partner that is interested in spirituality, definitely hold on to that because it's something that's a little bit more on the rare side. Fourth and most final level of intimacy would be physical. And you guys already know that what we see all around us today is that couples often jump into the physical level first and foremost, right? They don't build up any of the other steps. And it's vital to follow the prior steps to ensure that the man that you're going to share your body with has a good heart. And number one, we know that it's an energy exchange. So you're unknowingly taking on all of the energetics and repressed emotions and all the things that you can't see but are definitely there in that person. You're letting that come into your body, when you're having that exchange with them. And of course, it's a physical exchange too that often comes with consequences, health-related consequences, pregnancy. So it is a big deal. We often forget because our society wants to make it seem so casual and so light and so easy, but there's been a lot of women who experience high levels of stress and pain because they had no idea that they weren't building a solid foundation under their relationship prior to getting involved physically. And that's painful when they go through that process over and over and over again. Make your own choices, but just make sure that you're okay with your choices. Married couples, of course, should still invest in sexual intimacy. Things get really busy and life gets in the way, and especially if kids are in the picture, sexual intimacy and romance dies out, and that's why a lot of people end up splitting up. So knowing that, it's vital to be aware of that and intentionally carve out time and space for your partner. So we as women, we should never, and men too, should never be complacent in letting any of these areas of intimacy with our spouse be neglected, not intellectual, emotional, spiritual, or physical intimacy. When something's off in any of these 4 levels, just remember, humility is the great leveler of humankind. There's been so many times when you use humility instead of aggression, the other person comes around to your point of view rather quickly and surprisingly. So something that's really important in the family, which is the building block of civilization and the bedrock of society, are roles. Why is family the building block of civilization? I've been saying that for 3 episodes now. Because everything starts out in the home. That's where children are born, raised, they grow up, they see the examples, they are disciplined. They're basically taught how to be functional adults and then sent out into the real world. Family is something that you deeply care about and will fight for. And it solves loneliness and provides a safety net. This is just my personal take, but I think in wanting to destroy the family unit today, whatever powers are behind that, they just want to take something away from you that you care deeply about and that you will fight for, because if you don't have that, then it's easier to push you around and just get you to do anything. That's just my hot take. When families lack trust, when they lack organization, conflict and disorder tend to dominate. So this is when maybe people in the family, they have low confidence in others taking responsibilities, so it becomes difficult to delegate roles, and so responsibility never becomes developed. That's why in an effective household, there are 2 types of leaders, right? Both men and women could be a leader, but not in ways that causes them to butt heads with each other or compete for first place, because their tasks and their leadership will be split up into the areas where their natural strengths lie. So men would be task leaders and women would be relationship leaders. With men, task leadership, this helps generate great productivity in the right contexts and can weather great extreme stress and chaos. In this scenario, let's say traditional life, the man's primary career role would be providing for the family. And he would be there to make sure things are running efficiently. He's there to teach responsibility like self-discipline, structure, routine. He's there to teach principles and enforce them in the family. The task leader is also responsible for motivation and modeling a strong work ethic for the children, as well as being in charge of major decisions and helping show the family how to prioritize. The task leader is also mainly responsible for having the final say in discipline, and it's very vital in raising any kind of children that there is consistency and consequence. And I don't mean that consequence has to be the same all across the board for all kids, no, because that's not how it works. But what I mean is consequences have to appear consistently when they are promised, so you can't just threaten your child over and over and over again, but never give them what you're threatening them with. Task leadership is also a man's job because fathers help build a child's integrity and self-esteem, right? So all these things that I've been listing, like efficiency, responsibility, principles, motivation, strong work ethic, that's building your own self-esteem, right? You're showing up, and every time you show up, your confidence builds a little more. And fathers being there to back their children in developing that character trait are being task leaders in this way. You can see what happens when absent or withdrawn fathers don't lead. It becomes an unraveling of society members. They don't have any of these qualities. No efficiency, no sense of responsibility, no self-discipline, no structure, no routine. So, no matter how much single mothers are capable of achieving on their own, without a father's corrective, restrictive, structured role in the home, children greatly lack, becoming that well-rounded human being. Mothers just simply can't spread themselves into every single area that a human person needs in order to develop. Now, what about women? What does being a relationship leader mean? So women, as relationship leaders, they're a lot more focused on feelings and details, and they help to build up that emotional security in the home. Whether or not a woman has a career out in the workforce, still in the home, her primary career is caregiver. She is a homemaker. She is both a lover and a friend to her husband. She is an amateur nurse. She's a chauffeur. She's an amateur counselor. At some point, she is always talking to somebody about their problems. She is a cook. She's a baker, an entertainer, a teacher, a tutor, a tailor, a launderer, a problem solver, a home manager. She's the support to the task leader. So it's a lot of jobs that women have, but we are really wired to be able to work this way because women can really sense when something is amiss in the home. Even if someone doesn't say it, our intuition lets us know, hey, something's up, pay attention and get to the bottom of it. So that's women in being relationship leaders and the things that they take on. And effective, happy marriages have both the task and relationship leader. I saw a quote one time and it said, "My dad was the law and my mother was the love." So basically, it's important to split up those roles that play to your own natural strengths, what you're good at. So men are really good at focus, perseverance, motivation, work ethic. Women are better at, making sure people's needs are taken care of, making sure they feel secure emotionally and are fed and well clothed and are taken to where they need to go. So this is why partnership is important, because two people can split up the workload of life, thrive in each of their areas, and feel fulfilled. Character is extremely important in long-term relationships because, number one, character helps you respect yourself and expect better treatment from others. The greatest personal progress is made when we struggle against those baser instincts that come from our lizard brain and we seek a degree of self-mastery. So your personal self-character is a project that's entirely up to you. Each act that you courageously take builds confidence for the next. So do the scary thing and use the momentum to keep the ball rolling. So for me, this really works because sometimes I'll have this really procrastinating feeling for no reason. Just my brain is trying to convince me like, oh, this is going to be a tough thing to do, or it's going to take a lot of time, or you're going to run into obstacles. And it sometimes successfully talks me out of doing the thing. But if I do it, and I'm like, oh, wow, that was easier than I thought, quicker than I thought. It feels so good to have knocked that off my list. And that literally gives me momentum to swing to the next thing that I've been avoiding, and then on and on and on. So that's what it means that by each act of courage builds confidence for the next. So really use that. Start with one little scary thing and then swing from that to the next monkey bars. When it comes to character, humility is super important because it banishes ego and it affirms that self-improvement is necessary for all of us, and in a non-competitive way, right? It's not about other people. It's about being better than your yesterday's self or your last year's self. And reputation is a big part of character too, and reputation means consistency and correct action, including virtues like honesty and personal responsibility over time. So people recognize a pattern in you and they coin that as good reputation or bad reputation. So if you have a good reputation, that shows others that you have dependability and that they can trust you. Next, we have charity, and charity may be the generosity of sharing with others, but it also means mercy with forgiveness and forbearance. Remember, forgiving is graceful, right? Not only is it just feminine, but it's a good character trait for both men and women because forgiving is for the forgiver, not the forgiven. Holding grudges really depletes your character. Have you ever had a situation with someone where you've begged them their forgiveness, but it seems like they have something to gain from withholding that forgiveness from you? It's almost like they proudly carry their grudge around, and it's like, I don't know how many more times I can apologize to you, but if you don't want to forgive me, there's nothing else that I can do to get that forgiveness out of you. So forgiveness always comes from the forgiver. It's for the forgiver. It is a form of, hey, let it go. Don't hold on to this anymore. They're a human being. They make mistakes. You will make mistakes in the future that hurt people. Let it go. Don't hold grudges, Just let things go. Forget about it. Make more space in your brain for the things that you want to achieve and the life that you want to live, the person that you want to become. Remember, good men notice acts of kindness. They notice when you go out of your way to show kindness to somebody or to do something that isn't necessarily required of you. So remember, charity isn't just generosity of giving people things, but it also means forgiving too. Self-control is huge for character because it teaches us to live a deliberate life with the long term in mind rather than short term, right? Because we want to maximize our potential instead of minimize it. Self-improvement recognizes that you have a limitless potential and it has an effect on others too. So cultivate it, work on it. Don't just ignore it and let it lie dormant. And finally, happiness. Happiness is a byproduct automatically of living a life of character. So if you live by those principles listed above, like self-mastery, humility, striving to have a good reputation, being charitable, especially when it comes to forgiving others, having self-control, pursuing self-improvement, then you most likely will find happiness in this process. Happiness comes from a personal sense of self-worth and accomplishment, as well as our ever-expanding connection with life in general. And just as a reminder, I talked about this in a previous episode about femininity, but character does affect your appearance. So working on your character will actually beautify you externally and physically. Boundaries. Something that we are all always working on. Boundaries are a very important basis for our identities because not only do they form the core of our own values, they also determine how we present and how we show up in the world. We decide what our boundaries are for ourselves and for others. Nobody else can decide that for you. It's very important to clearly delineate and define your boundaries, even if you do have some resistance in your feelings to express them, out of fear of maybe they won't be received well or how will this person react. But just know that resentment will arise if you don't tell another person that you're in a relationship with about your boundaries. And you will start finding yourself feeling angry at them, while the true fact of the matter is you are guilty with yourself for not speaking up for what you want and need. I'm going to say that again. You're going to find yourself getting angry at your partner for something that you failed to do. So, you as being a person with free will in this world, it's up to you to let people know hey, this is the kind of treatment that I would like. This is the kind of treatment that I would not like. And another thing too that we do as women, that it's really important to kind of have a quick little boundary note before we get into this is with venting. So, it's really fun to vent with our girlfriends. We can do it for hours, but sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we're with our male partner and we're wanting to vent. This is where the boundary comes in. If you're just wanting to vent, give him that heads up that you just need to vent. It helps him realize that you're just processing and not looking for a problem. Because if a male hears a lot of conversation coming from a woman in a negative tone and she's just venting, but he doesn't know that, then that feels like an attack to him, and that can very quickly turn into a fight, right? Because he's going to get defensive. So something that you can do that will ease this situation and still let you have your venting moment is just say hey, I just need to get this off my chest. There's no problem. I just need someone to listen. Can I share this with you? Most likely he'll be fine with it and feel relieved that it's not at him or about him. Relationships require constant and mutual training through both feedback and adjustment. Of course, this takes humility on both people's parts with accepting those corrective cues and taking on that feedback that they received and switching up their behavior to better suit their relationship and their partner. So something that we as ladies can really use to our advantage is girlishness. Girlishness is when you show sincere innocence and vulnerability with a little twist of humor for an unselfishly beneficial purpose. So let's say you're trying to get something out of your partner, but it's not in a manipulative way. Let's say he always cleans up the kitchen, but he never wipes the crumbs off of the table, right? He'll say, oh, hey babe, I cleaned, but he didn't, right? Because he might have cleaned, but he didn't wipe the crumbs off the table. So if you come at it aggressively you got to use girlishness in sort of a way of addressing this problem in a way that's both uplifting and subtly assertive. So, kind of paints the situation in a positive light, but also asserts your position on how you feel about it. So, using words like beast in a light joking way, or something that like highlights, his brutish manliness. And like, for example, with the crumbs on the table scenario, you could be like, oh my goodness, you're such a beast. You just, you leave the crumbs on the table, but you say it in a way that's funnier and cuter than that. Like, I don't know. I'm botching this because, you guys, I'm pre-recording these for Christmas and I'm in my luteal phase and I can barely talk. So thank you so much for bearing with me. But anyway, essentially, girlishness really helps us get his attention on something. So it's a cute way to make a confrontation, right? And bring his attention to something that he's doing, but not in a way that's going to make him feel attacked. This is really helpful because you can take a thoughtless comment or action that comes from him and turn it into a playful lesson. This is going to help diffuse the tension in that moment. It's going to increase the chemistry between the two of you, because anytime that women are lighthearted and funny instead of mad and pissed and like cloudy and stormy, men just feel more attracted to us. And most times it'll get the problem solved, because if you bring it up in a way that's kind of funny and non-confrontational, that plays up your girlishness, it usually works better to get them to address or take care of that problem rather than constantly negatively nagging them about it. The best way to ask for anything is to speak up in a feminine way. Just ask cutely, ask softly, just like, hey, what would make me really happy? Or, what I would really like. Another thing, too, very important to keep in mind, is that men are tone deaf to hinting. We hint and hint and hint all day at them, but they need us to describe exactly what we need. And men are kind of wired, right, to receive that emotional reward of making us happy. So remember to use those words. Be like, what would make me really happy? And describe vividly the thing that you would like. Moving on being a domestic goddess. C.S. Lewis wrote, "Your job is the one for which all others exist." So if you think about it, all the other jobs, they all exist so that people could come home from those jobs, right? And relax at home and have a home that they are paying for and are enjoying and are building and are investing in. So how in the world could women and their jobless homemakers not be important, right? Women are the homemakers of society. And the goal for a woman who's a good homemaker is to create a home where everyone will remember how they felt when they were there, even if they don't know why. And they always love being there, always want to come back, right? We all know how that home feeling feels. When you're creating an atmosphere in your home, make sure you consider all the senses that humans have. The 5 senses, right? Visual, smell, sounds, taste, and feel. Visually, number 1, always keep things arranged and kept tidy. Just remember, you can have the nicest things, but if you don't take care of them, they will deteriorate. Have some good aromas in your home. The strongest sense that's tied to emotions and memory is the sense of smell. Have you ever smelled something and been unexpectedly ripped from the present moment and just yanked back to middle school playground when you and your friend were using your lip smackers and it was like a Coca-Cola smell? I don't know. You literally get transported through time when you smell a certain smell. So whatever way you prefer to do it, just have a good smell in your home. You don't want someone coming into your house and wanting to walk right out because there's a smell like mildew or just something nasty or unpleasant, right? What you can do is have some food cooking, baking, maybe too. That can be pleasant. Just make sure that it's something that smells really, really good when it's being made. A simmer pot is really amazing. So what's a simmer pot? This is incredible for the holidays, actually, you guys. And really, really good for your lungs during like sick season if you want to breathe it in. You're just going to gather some really delicious aromatic ingredients and you're just going to boil them all together on a stovetop and just let that smell go through your entire home. And you can even lean over the pot and breathe in the steam. So it's often things like citrus. So you can use any sort of citrus that you have, cut up some fresh lemons, oranges, limes. You're gonna put hibiscus, rose, all dried. You're gonna do menthol crystals so that it has this kind of minty smell to it. You're gonna use cinnamon sticks, bay leaf, and I'm sure there was other things, but I will absolutely make a reel for you guys that will be posted this week on Instagram so that you can try it at home. It's incredible for winter and it makes your house smell amazing. And if you don't want to use food to make your house smell aromatic, there's plenty of non-toxic diffusers or candles out now these days that are also a great option. Sounds. This is one of the most ignored sensory aspects of the home. Definitely have some sort of sounds playing, whether that's some sort of frequency or sound baths or crystal bowls. You know, some people like that. Some people like ocean sounds. I grew up with my teacher always playing classical music in the classroom literally all day long. So I do like that, especially if I'm working on stuff. I like that in the background. But pay attention to the types of background sounds that, you know, as we hear a siren right now. Thank you. Always pay attention to the sounds that you have in your home. People always mention the music playing lightly in the background when they come over, and I have my husband to thank for that. He's very into ambience and just always wants to make sure that the lighting is cool, that the music and the speakers are perfectly positioned, that technology is working, so I'm grateful to him for that. Taste. When you're a woman with a family and a home, even if you're not the greatest cook, baker, whatever, I'm not, I still think it helps to learn how to make a staple appetizer and a staple entree. Just two things that you are consistently good and reliably good at making, just in case, you know, if you have people over or if you're going somewhere where you need to bring a dish. And another thing too, I think it's a really nice touch. I don't see it as much in American culture as I see it in other nationalities, but it's very feminine, very sweet, and very nice and hospitable to offer somebody something when they come to your home, even if that's just water, you know. But a way that you can contribute to the sense of taste in your home is, you know, just by offering them something yummy to snack on. And finally, touch. So fill your home with beautiful, comfortable textures. And the main thing here is always reserve the deepest consideration for your husband and his comfort, right? Like, what kind of towels is he using every day? What does he sleep on? Is he comfortable? I insisted that Sam and I sleep on silk pillowcases, and you know what? I think he's happier about it because he wakes up with his hair a little bit more in order, and he has noticed that. That kind of concludes the unity, togetherness, men and women section. And of course, I wanted to include a section for the single ladies, right? Because even though this series was very relationship focused, you don't have to be in a relationship or married to derive great benefit out of these principles. When it comes to my single girls, if you are open to receiving your lifetime partner, and that's kind of what you are looking for, you want to get very specific about the type of man that you want to be your husband and set that standard for yourself. So don't entertain anything that's not that, right? Because why would you? Keep in mind that you need to become the type of partner that you'd want to have, right? So when they say become the type of friend that you're looking for or become the type of friend that you need, same thing here in the relational aspect. This is because mirroring really works, right? It's reverse psychology. It's like solving the problem by taking apart the machine and seeing how the insides work, right? So If you know what kind of qualities you need to develop, then you know what kind of steps you need to take every day to work on yourself. So what you want to do is list your future husband's qualities on one side of a paper. All of these incredible qualities that you see him having, that you really want in your life partner. And on the other side, you're going to write what he would want or deserve. Set your mind on being shaped into the partner that would fit into your ideal man's life. That's how you fill in the blank. That's how you manifest the type of partner that you're looking for. Not by being super hyper-focused on yourself and like what I need and what I want, but visualize that partner and reverse engineer him to figure out, okay, like here's this ideal man that I would want. What is his ideal woman and how do I become her? So why do some men say that they don't want marriage? Number one, he can't afford it, plain and simple, right? It's a pretty big lifestyle change and it's a big responsibility. So for the most part, can't afford it, pretty good reason. Number two, he's immature. In this case, you're going to want to focus more on those intellectual, emotional, and spiritual intimacy levels with him rather than physical intimacy. Because if there's any hope for this guy, he needs to be working on building up the intellectual, emotional, and spiritual aspects of himself and his relationship with you. Number three, he's simply not done dating yet. He wants to keep his options open. He doesn't really want to lock in on you because there's other girls that he might be more interested in than you. Number four, his fear of uncertainty. Maybe there's something really heavy in his life, or maybe he's not at the level himself yet that would satisfy his pride as a man, right? Like he doesn't see himself as worthy of being like a man who's married and is a caretaker and provider, Number five would be he's divorced or a child of divorce. That can leave a pretty big imprint on a person and their views of marriage. Maybe he has children. It can be pretty complicated to bring step-parents into children's lives or introduce them to somebody new, someone that they didn't know their whole life. And these relationships too have a tendency to impact children just as much as divorce does. Maybe his family doesn't approve, in which case, there's really nothing you can do. You just be very aware of the situation, but don't get involved. Just try to understand him and where all of this is coming from and avoid unnecessary conflict. Another reason why he doesn't want to get married is pure inflexibility, which just translates to he wants to retain his excuses to avoid commitment and responsibility. Maybe he's emotionally dependent on his family. This can be seen between sons and mothers quite often, where every single little decision they make, they have to run it by their mama, right? But this can also happen between fathers and grandparents, other members of the family for sure. Maybe he fears a high maintenance woman, in which case, again, he's just not the type of guy who sees himself at the level of having a beautiful, well-taken care of woman. That's all I can say about that. He wants someone who's easy to deal with, that he doesn't really have to try for that hard. And finally, he doesn't believe in marriage, which just means he doesn't see the value in committing. Why do we see the value in this commitment? Because it's a system that provides certainty and safety for the family. It shows the kids that when you unite with a partner, you have to stay through and work through whatever problem you have. You can't just leave and bounce to the next most interesting thing. So if you're a single girl and you do want to get married, is there a way to inspire a proposal? Well, you can't manipulate someone into asking you to marry them. And if you do, it will feel disingenuous and fake. Why would you, at the end of the day, want to be with a guy that you know deep down inside that you kind of manipulated him into asking you to marry him? Just think about it. It just doesn't feel as good as knowing that this person chose to spend the rest of their life with you. And what happens is men choose to marry when they feel that the woman that they're with is indispensable to them. They can't live without her. Their life, their happiness depends on her. So a solution for you, if you are waiting for a proposal and that's something that you would really like from your partner, it's really going to take your personal combination of charm, femininity, acceptance, admiration, character development, and understanding men to really, make you truly indispensable to your man. Some green flags to go for when you're dating or looking for a life partner. Number one, this guy would have healthy, established relationships. He would have a job or is training for one, and his finances are in order. You see him being kind to others, especially strangers, right? People he doesn't have to be kind to. He shows examples of being thoughtful, of being humble. He has a really admirable work ethic. You see him having a kind attitude about children. He proves himself as honest. He has a genuine sense of humor, right? Like not at the expense of other people or rude or crass, but can really make you laugh. And most importantly, he has a spiritual base. The direct opposite are red flags. This is what we're going to end off with. Red flags that you single girls really want to avoid. We're going to start off with that absolutely nots would be criminals, addicts who are not interested in recovering, serial cheaters, or men who insist on open relationships, or abusers of any kind because they just simply don't respect women or any vulnerable groups. So what are some red flags? He's superficial. He's very critical of people in his life. A dude that's very critical will also never shut up. So just keep that in mind. If you find him often making criticisms, run. It's just not going to be fun. He's a self-promoter. He's lazy. He cares more about keeping up appearances rather than being truthful. He doesn't want to talk about personal growth. He's adamantly against spirituality, has no greater vision for his life. He talks graphically about sex. He's not willing to wait for sex. He gives you constant flattery, but no respect. He's rude when served. He has addictions. He's involved in dangerous activity. He says things like, men aren't meant to be monogamous. He shows questionable behavior around family, children, and pets. And he borrows money from you. So those are the types of guys that, it's not going to go well with them. So to wrap things up, this final episode in the series, it more so covered the union portion of men and women, particularly pertaining to marriage and family. And it showed us how important roles really are to keep things flowing and well organized in the home. And the woman's essential role as the homemaker is the building block of society, and it's got to be cultivated with love and care. And everyone should show respect to this position. The most effective families, they do have two leaders, right? But they're each specialized within his or her natural strengths. The man is the task leader he provides focus, he's efficient, he's motivated, he teaches responsibility, and the woman is the relationship leader. So she makes sure people are comfortable, happy, fed, warm, clean, doing their homework. So it's important that there's those two leaders. Don't forget that part of maintaining a strong, healthy, long-lasting relationship is working on your own personal character, which no one else can do but you. I'm really grateful that you stuck through these series, and the series showed us that losing our femininity in an effort to quote-unquote fit in with today's world is the worst thing that we can do. Men need us and our feminine influence to inspire them to reach their own potential. And a lot can be accomplished and solved by being gentle, my woman friends. It is, after all, our great superpower. As always, don't forget to give us a follow on Instagram at Stellar Cycles Pod so that you can get visuals and links to everything that's mentioned in these episodes. You'll get infographics, you'll get reels, how-tos, recipes, and of course, don't forget to get your free grocery guide in the link in the bio. It's split up into the phases of your cycle, so you know what kind of groceries to look for depending on which day you're at. We're looking forward to reading the reviews that you post here, and please give us a 5-star rating if you enjoy this podcast. This is the last episode of 2023. That's crazy. I started this podcast this year. I would have never thought that I would be here a whole entire year later, but it's been quite the ride, so thank you so much. We'll be back with an episode for you guys Monday, January 1st, about things that you can do for your winter glow up. Until then, spread the good word about stellar cycles to your fellow women, and let's all elevate our lives, cycles, and dreams together. Till next time, Stellar Cycles out.